Hi guys, welcome to a new video. This is the part 2 of this double sleeved corporate dress. In this part, we'll be sewing this dress from the beginning to the end. If you've not seen the drafting video, please, the link will be in the description. Just go watch and then join for the sewing. The first step here is to take in your dart allowance. So you can use your pattern paper to measure your darts, and then you're just going to take your dart in. This is for the front. For the back, I went in by 1/2 inch at the zipper allowance, and I took it out to reduce zipper bulge. I also went ahead to take in my dart, and then I cut a facing for the neckline of the back piece. So I went ahead to take my dart and then turn the facing for the back piece. The next step is to get the cape. Remember, I cut out a piece of pattern paper for the cape. I went ahead to cut it on my fabric, adding allowance up and down. I'm just measuring where it's supposed to stop at the neckline, and then I'm just going to sew round from that place it's supposed to stop to the end. Make sure you leave the upper part open. I'll do it and I'll come back and show you what it looks like. Also, after taking my dart in and turning the neckline with a facing, this is exactly what it looks like for the back piece. So I've gone ahead to sew the cape round. This is what it looks like. As you can see, the part that is open is the exact same measurement with the neckline. The next thing to do is to place it on the neckline. So just watch what I'm doing. I'm going to place it. The part that is open is exactly where the asymmetric neckline stops. So I'm just going to go ahead and pin it down and then continue until I get to the end of the neckline. Then I'm going to go to the machine and sew by 1/2 inch. Remember, this is on the right side, so you don't have to do this on the wrong side. Do it on the right side. You're also going to cut a facing for this neckline. So I brought a piece of fabric, I ironed my interfacing on it, and I'm just going to trace out my neckline just like you see me do. Trace it out with a chalk. You take it out, and then I'm using 2.5 inches for the wideness of my facing. So I'm just going to go round by 2.5 inches, and then I'm going to cut it out to get my facing for the front neckline. So the next thing to do is to place my facing on the right side facing right side. Remember, this facing is what we are going to use to turn in the edges of the neckline so it can appear neat. So this is exactly what it's going to look like. You can go ahead and pin it down. I'm just trying to trace it so that I will follow my stitching and it will be neat. So after I stitch, I'll top stitch and then I'll serge the edges of this facing. So after I was done with the facing, I sewed it, I top stitch, and then I serged the mouth. This is exactly how neat. As you can see, it already looks really nice. The next thing to do is to join the front bodice with the back bodice, shoulder to shoulder. So I'll take the facing for the back piece, and then I'll just use it to cover all of them, and then I'll stitch by 1/2 inch. I'll repeat the same thing for the other shoulder. After I was done stitching, this is exactly what it looks like. At this point, you can go ahead to use your hemming gum to just lay it flat so it can look neat. But I did not have any hemming gum available in the house, so I ended up doing it after I finished making the dress. I set this aside, and then for the back piece. So I stitched down my zipper allowance. The upper part I used loose stitch because I'm going to loosen it later. I continued my tie stitch until I got to the sleeve, and then I used my loose stitch because I'll be taking it out very soon. After I was done, the next thing is to join the upper part with the lower part. So this is the upper bodice, and I'm going to be placing the lower bodice on it, and then right side facing each other, and then I'm going to be stitching using 1/2 inch. The lower part of this doesn't have any dart intake, but you can go ahead and do that for yours. I'll repeat the same thing for the back bodies and the back lower part. I'm just going to stitch them by 1/2 inch on both sides of the zipper allowance. So this is exactly what it looks like for the back. As you can see, it's already coming together nicely. I didn't catch this on camera, but I went ahead before I stitched the upper and the lower part of this dress together. I took away half an inch from the upper bodice just to further eliminate zipper bulge, and this is exactly what it looks like for the front bodice. The next thing is to join the both of them together, right side facing each other, and then I'm going to stitch it from the upper part to the lower part using 1 inch because that's my sewing allowance. After I was done, this is exactly what it looked like. I also added my zipper, and this is exactly what it is looking like at the back. I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to the right side so we can see properly, and this is what it looks like on the right side. As you can see, it's coming together nicely. The last thing is the sleeve, and to get the sleeve measurement, I'm going to be taking round the armhole. That's what I'm going to be using to get my sleeve measurement. For my sleeve, I got a piece of paper. Please, this piece of paper is on fold. If you are cutting the sleeve, make sure it is on fold. The first thing to do is to mark your starting point, and then I marked from that to my elbow, which was 11 inch, and then I marked to the end of the sleeve. You can make the sleeve how long or short you want it to be. After extending the lines, I'm going to go ahead and label it. This is my elbow line, that's my starting line, and that's the sleeve length. I'll be coming down by 5 inch, which is my sleeve cap. I'm just opening this up to show you that it is folded in two. I'll extend the line on my sleeve cap area just so it can be more visible. The next thing to do is to get my sleeve round using this slant. So just make sure that you get your sleeve measurement slant from the starting line to your cap sleeve. I added 1 extra inch for allowance. I got the midpoint of this line. That's the midpoint of the line. And then from this point of the line, please just watch what I'm doing, or if you know how to cut your basic sleeve, I went in by 0.5 inch on one part of the line, and then I went up by 0.5 inch on the other part just to give my sleeve a really nice curve. On my elbow line, I put my elbow measurement divided by 2 and added 1 extra inch as my allowance. I repeated the same thing for the end of the sleeve. That's my wrist measurement divided by 2, added 1 extra inch for allowance, and then I'm connecting all the points together to give me my sleeve. If you want a more detailed tutorial of a sleeve, please let me know in the comment section. So after doing that, I used the pattern to cut out a piece of lace fabric, 2 piece for both sleeves. Then for the outer sleeve, remember this is a double sleeve dress, it has an opening, that's a slant somewhere in the middle on the front part of the sleeve. So that's exactly what I'm just trying to get. I measured 4 inches, and then from the 4 inch line I made a line to the end of this dress. So you can make yours very straight. Mine was not very straight, it was a little bit slanted, but at this point you can actually do whatever you want. Just make sure you cut the sleeve in two on one part of the sleeve, not in the middle. So from the middle part, come out by 4 inch, just like you see me do, and I'm going to stitch it until I get to the elbow line. This is exactly what it's supposed to look like, and then to the end will be open. So that's the vision for the sleeve. At the bottom part of this sleeve, I'll be adding some inches for the width when I'm cutting on my fabric, just to give it some funnel sleeve shape. So this is exactly how I cut it on my fabric. On the area that we slit, I added 1 inch allowance instead of half, because that's the area that will have the opening, and every other area I added half an inch, except the end of this sleeve that I added about 3 inch allowance, just to give it a little bit of a funnel shape. So we are going to stitch this using 1 inch until it gets to around the elbow line, and then you are going to leave it open. That's how you are going to achieve that sleeve. So as you can see, I'm measuring it to show you that this is 3 inches that I added for the sleeve, and I'm just using my arrow to face them in the direction that I want them to go, and you're going to be cutting 2 of each piece. For the sleeve opening, I decided to measure 12 inches. I ended up actually using 11, but I'm just measuring 12 inches. That's where it's going to start. So for the lace sleeve, I'm going to stitch it by 1 inch, and then I'm going to turn it over to the right side. So for the sleeve, I stitched down that area that I slit. Remember I gave 1 inch to use to stitch it down, So I stitched from the starting point until I got to that 12 inch. As you can see, I marked a point there, and then I use my number 5 stitch to continue because I know I'll be losing it later. So these are the two sleeves that you're supposed to have for one hand of this style. I also stitched the sleeve down using 1 inch allowance. So after I was done stitching the sleeve down, I actually went ahead to open it until I got to that 12 inch because I wanted to see what it would look like, to be sure I was on the right track with this sleeve. It turned out looking so beautiful, so I was sure I was on the right track. So if you are making this, you don't need to open this now. You can wait after attaching it to your sleeve, to your gown, before you use your seam ripper to open it up onto the 12 inches. I used my hemming gun to fold it in for a clean finish. Now for the second sleeve, this is what it looks like for the lace, and this is what it looks like for the actual sleeve. If you notice from this other sleeve, I have not ripped the area that will be open, so I just use the loose stitch, that's number 5, on to sew it. When I'm done attaching it on my dress, I cannot use a seam ripper to rip it until I get to the 12 inch. So you're going to insert the lace sleeve into the crepe sleeve. Please just watch what I'm doing carefully. Even if you don't get what I'm saying, make sure that they are connected to each other, right side facing wrong side. So the right side of the lace will face the wrong side of the black fabric, and they are just going to pin them round. Remember, we use the same measurement, so they are the same size, so just pin them round at the upper area to get one full sleeve. If you will not be able to control it, you can go ahead to stitch them like this. So you can just go ahead to stitch, but you can just use your pin. Then you're just going to bring the dress, and then you're just going to attach it round the dress. Please note that this area that has this slit will be at the front. So it will be at the front. It's not supposed to be at the back because the slit is in front. So I headed to my machine to stitch the two sleeves together to form one. As you can see from here, I was already done stitching the lace and the actual fabric together, and I'm trying to show you that the line that has the opening is already losing because I used loose stitch. As you can see, this line has the opening. The part that has the opening will be facing the front. So look at the front. This is where it has the cape. Make sure that it is facing the front, and the side that doesn't have the opening is at the back, so that when you are done, you can loosen it out, and the slit for the sleeve will be at the front side. I hope what I'm saying makes sense. Please, if it doesn't, just watch what I'm doing carefully. After attaching this sleeve, I loosened it to the 12 inches, and this is exactly what it looks like. I also went ahead to hem the bottom of the dress, and this is exactly what I had. If you like watching this tutorial, please don't forget to give a thumbs up, like, comment, share, and follow. Thank you.